This rotation is just getting started, and it's going to continue for years and years and years. The bubble inflated over a period of years. It's going to deflate quicker, but it's still going to play out over an extended period of time. But I think a lot of the gains will be front-loaded in that the gains for rotating early will be much greater than the gains to those who rotate late. Meaning the sooner you can read the writing on the wall and react, I think the greater the profit. Now, some people are going to be like deer in a headlight. They've been following this momentum strategy for so long, and they've fallen in love with their stocks. It's going to be a while before they sell them. They're not going to be able to recognize what's changed. You know, they have this buy the dip mentality, and they think, well, if we just hold and hope, it's going to come back. Well, it's not going to come back, and it's going to take a long time for some people to recognize that and throw in the towel. But the people who recognize it early and make the shift will be in a much better position. Of course, I made the shift a long time ago. I had no idea a decade ago that it would take this long for this rotation to begin. I thought that the markets would have wised up sooner and started moving out of U.S. stocks, out of the dollar, into foreign stocks, into value stocks earlier. Well, they didn't do it earlier. They're doing it now. They have a lot of catching up to do because during the interim, U.S. stocks got even more overpriced on a relative basis than the rest of the world. And more importantly, the problems in the U.S. economy got even bigger, especially this inflation problem that the Fed is powerless to do anything about. Powell is acting as if the Fed is somehow trapped in this low interest rate environment. The Fed created the low interest rate environment. That's why it exists. The Fed brought interest rates down to zero. That's why they're so low. One of the reasons that I was so critical of taking interest rates from 5% to zero is because I said, how are you going to get them back up again? I said, it's one thing to slash them to zero. It's another thing to raise them back up again. Because by lowering interest rates to zero, you encourage all sorts of debt.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And
now, when everybody is loaded up with debt, how do you pull the rug out from under them? How do you normalize interest rates when you have an abnormal amount of debt? So we're not just stuck in this low interest rate environment. The Fed trapped everybody in this low interest rate environment. And now the Fed is claiming it's like, well, because we're in this low interest rate environment, well, we have no excuse but to use QE. They do have an excuse because they're the reason that interest rates are at zero. Raise interest rates. Why don't don't complain that rates are at zero when you've got them stuck at zero. Look at the Fed's balance sheet. Where would interest rates be if the Fed's balance sheet wasn't so big? Obviously, the Fed is holding them down. And of course, the Fed is going to point to interest rates all around the world and say, well, they're low in Europe, they're low in Asia. Of course, we've got the reserve currency. We're basically setting monetary policy for the rest of the world. If we had normal interest rates, if interest rates were 4 or 5% in the United States, you think they'd be zero in Europe? Of course not. We are the ones that are setting this precedent. People are taking their cue from the Federal Reserve. Now, of course, they're going to break from the Fed because they're going to have to respond to this inflation problem, which is now global. It's not just a U.S. problem. It's happening all over the world. The difference is the rest of the world may be in a position to do something about their inflation. We're in no position to do something about ours because of the enormity of the debt that we have.
The system is not working. I mean, it's working for the government, but it's not working for the economy. It's not working for the people. And that's the problem that Austrian economists understand. And just, kind of to give you a cliff notes of, what Austrian school is versus other schools of economic thought, Keynesianism being, probably the most popular right now. Austrians put the emphasis for economic growth on savings and production. Not spending and consumption. And so they look at all fiscal and monetary policy that is trying to stimulate demand as being misguided and actually counterproductive because they put the cart before the horse. Now, a lot of that stimulus comes in the form of money. Hey, let's just print up money so that people can spend it, and that's going to grow the economy. But the Austrians don't see any value added by just printing fiat currency. Because when you print money, you don't increase the supply of goods and services to buy with that money. So all that really you have is inflation. You just have more money chasing whatever supply of goods and services exists. And so prices go up. What money really is a way to facilitate trade. It is an improvement on barter. See, before money was invented, if you were a chair maker and you wanted a pair of shoes, you had to find a guy that made shoes that you liked who also wanted your chairs. So it was a very inefficient way to transact business.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Marco Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Marco Stan.